Turns out that Stoke can't do it on a cold Tuesday night in Luton as the town came from behind to win 2-1 at Kenilworth Road on Tuesday evening. Alongside me to review finally a nice win and an even more encouraging performance is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe, and for the first time this season we've got town fan Mark Crowther with us. Gents, that is more like it.
So much better.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah indeed. Yeah, we will review a much more optimistic and promising night of football right after this intro.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in this year's Football Content Awards. This season the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I said before the intro, we are reviewing Luton Town 2, Stoke City 1. Not just a win, but a much more encouraging performance as well. And alongside me, I've got Jimbo and Mark Crowther to do that. Gents, I think our shoulders are all a lot more raised after that, aren't they? It's just nice to have something positive to talk about.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And pretty much most of it was positive yesterday. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but positive, and that's kind of what we've been calling for a couple of weeks. And it's just these small marginal gains to improve things. But if you put it in the context of the Swansea game to this game, the jump in performance was much better. The evening was much more satisfying, obviously at the end, but just the general feel of the night. So much better. I mean, we've missed that.
Yeah, we have. What we're going to do, we know that it wasn't perfect. We know that there are some sort of concerns still going forward. We're going to leave those for the Blackburn preview. Been a while since we've been able to record a positive podcast, and some of the last 3 or 4 that we've recorded, Jimbo and I have found it tough to record, so we know how hard it's been to listen to. So we're just going to enjoy a win, quite frankly, and we're going to be positive in this podcast, and we'll save all of the other stuff for the next one. So please, in the comments, don't come at me that, everything's changed and nothing's changed at all. We know, but we're going to enjoy a victory and we're going to enjoy that performance because we haven't had too much to enjoy recently, but no one can deny that was well worth enjoying on Tuesday night, Mark, because it reminded me a little bit of Luton in the Premier League, that we took a blow, but it didn't knock us and we kept on going, and in the end we got our reward.
You can't underestimate where the players' confidence was before or after Saturday, and to go behind so early, just the pressing, it was just like the old Luton, just so good. The intent, everyone was finding space, and we did what we should, like pushing teams back and being on the front foot and basically determining the tempo of the game.
And that was the kind of thing that we didn't see anything on Saturday of any tempo, any intent, any thing to get behind whatsoever. But there was last night, maybe not in the team news, 2 changes. Absolutely nothing like we asked for in the preview of a back 4 or anything like that. 2 changes. Tahith Chong came into the side, and can't even remember who the other one was who came into the side. It's been all of these games have been so absolutely weird. But Chong was the main one, wasn't he? Chong came in for Amari'i Bell. When you looked at it, no one really thought that there was ever going to be anything but a back 5. And when you got to the ground, they were all warming up as back 5. And Chong was warming up on the right side. And you're like, hey, please tell me that's not the case. It was the case. I don't think it didn't work to anywhere near the extent that I didn't think it would work. I thought it was a lot better than that. I mean, I'm not saying for 1 minute that I want to see Tahith Chong right wing back for the rest of my life, but I've seen it be worse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we have. We've seen it be worse this season. We've seen it be worse this week. So it wasn't. It's not ideal. It's not what we want. I guess it's not what we've consistently called for, and I guess it reaffirms that that's going to be the way it is. That's what he wants to play, and so we're just going to have to get on with it. It's a bit more difficult now because of the defensive injuries and stuff, but it's not. I don't think it's a day. It's a podcast to be talking, moaning about the formations on this one. I think in the preview, I was like, my expectations were so low, I just would settle for like 3 or 4 passes strung together, and they achieved that with about the first minute or two. So it's like, oh, already this is better than the entirety of the Swansea game, and so I was happy with that. And the intent was better. The just the care of the ball was like chalk and cheese to that Swansea game. And so you're thinking, oh yeah, it's really good. 5 minutes, yeah, that's a good 5 minutes. See how this goes. And then the 6th minute comes along. You're like, oh my God, can't catch a break.
You just absolutely knew he was going to score. I mean, we said it in the preview. Things are written in the stars, and when it's not your day and your luck's out, this sort of thing happens. And the bugger went and cleared one off the line later in the game as well, just to sort of compound how much of an annoyance he was going to be. I mean, to be fair to Stoke, it's a really good goal, isn't it? The ball from the 42, Manhoff, inside Hashioka, who is centimetres away from being able to reach that and cut it out. But once it's past him, Cannon's in on goal. There's a reason why we wanted to sign him in the summer, as Rob alluded to in the pre-match and confirmed. We wanted to sign him because he looked like a deadly finisher, and he deadly finished straight past Kaminsky. And out of nothing, we're 1-0 down.
If anyone can, Cannon can, and he did.
Absolutely, yeah. You're quite right. Yeah, there's a reference from the past, isn't there? But we didn't go under. It would have been easy after 6 minutes, having had the game at that point, for everyone, I'm talking players, manager, supporters, media, everyone, to think, oh, for crying out loud, why us? And this is going to be a long night at the office. But it wasn't. We pulled our sleeves up, and this is where I referenced the Premier League earlier, because we took a lot of early hits in the Premier League, but we rode them and kept on going. And within 10 minutes, we should have been level, shouldn't we? Jacob Brown, who was the other one who came into the side, slides Elijah through. Elijah hits the goalkeeper. That must have been the most fluorescent goalkeeper kit I have ever seen in all my life. I mean, you couldn't miss him, could you? The rest of them are looking like referees in their black kit, aren't they?
Elijah didn't miss him.
He didn't miss him. He hit him full on. Yeah, absolutely. But Elijah was really, really good last night. Like, really good. When you consider we wasn't even sure if he was going to play because he went off on Saturday, suspected knee issue, which always worries us, doesn't it? I thought his all-round game, the whole package, was really good. And actually, that front three, if one didn't get you, the next one was going to. And if them two didn't get you, well, the third one sure as hell was going to. It just worked.
I'm not saying, I've been saying it just looks a lot better with the three of them together. And I know we don't play a 4-3-3 in the conventional way we would want, but the options are there. Like when Brown makes the space, and Elijah just was a nuisance the whole game. And yeah, I thought Carlton was just a man mountain. He was just winning all the duels, and it was just like more like what we were hoping for, and just the passion, the desire, the heart. Not one single head dropped, and the crowd stayed with them. So it was just like a positive. Like this is what we want to see.
And there was something about us, wasn't there? There was a threat. There was a threat about us. There wasn't a threat about us at all on Saturday. There was a threat. The wide players, they were doing their thing. I think Chong and Moses put 10 crosses in this game. Referenced the other day, we couldn't get them into positions at all. Jordan Clark put 20 in total. Luton put 39 crosses in this game. And as we referenced in the preview, Luton's game, when we've got a style, it's get the ball out wide, get the ball into 2 target men, and hey ho, 2 goals have come from. Okay, they've come from set pieces, but they've come from putting the ball in. I have to say, Stoke reminded me of Sunderland in the playoff semi-final. They were so small as a team, weren't they? It was unbelievable. I mean, apart from the 2 centre-backs, if you're taller than 5 foot, you can't apply at Stoke, I don't think, which is a complete contrast to the Stoke that everyone sort of renowned for, 6 foot tall, pump it long, throw anything in to the penalty box that you can. it's a complete change of style. Let's be fair, that manager ain't staying for too much longer because there is nothing about them whatsoever. But you can only beat what's in front of you, like Mark said earlier in the podcast. He just hoped it weren't going to be one of those nights when Elijah missed that chance. And thankfully, within 10 minutes, we've got a set piece. We were dominant on set pieces all night. Jordan Clark's set pieces, particularly the out-swinging ones. The in-swinging ones, Johansson came for absolutely every single one and punched every single one. Thankfully, one of them, he punched straight to a Luton player, which we'll come on to shortly. But he couldn't get anywhere near the outswingers. The outswinger onto Morris's head. That is a bloody good header, let me tell you, because it's going away from goal. He's got enough power on it to beat, well, we've referenced in the preview, in statistical terms, is the best goalkeeper in the league in terms of keeping balls out of his net. Really, really good goal from the skipper.
It was. It showed all loads of desire to get in front of the man as well. Decent corner, which was good. The first corner Jordan Clark took was the first manner, and there was a bit of groany. But after that, he sort of improved it. But that was spot on. But the desire from Morris to get in front of them, the marker there and glance at end was a wonderful goal. You just love to see that sort of goal. I don't think that would ever get boring, that sort of goal. And certainly not at that time. It was well deserved. And it's just a relief more than anything, because when they do get that early goal, you are thinking, well, we've played well, we've started well, we've done nothing wrong. Didn't really do much wrong for the goal. It was an incredible pass that just evaded the toenail of Hashi, didn't he? And you're thinking, well, how bad can your luck get? So to get that in was important, but it was important in the context of the first half that absolutely dominated that game. The passing was good. The midfield three worked. Victor Moses had his best game in a hat shirt. The front three were causing all kinds of havoc and pulling people all over the shop, and it just felt like it was the least that they deserved. And really, I mean, it was over the course of the game, but should have scored more than the two. But we'll take it the way it came.
How on earth did we not go in front though? There's another corner caused absolute pandemonium at the back post. There must have been about 5 efforts on goal. A goalkeeper got in the way of one of them. I'm sure someone's hacked one off the line. I think Holmes is involved. I think Eli's involved. I think Morris is involved. In fact, I think they were queuing up. If it hadn't got cleared when it did, there was going to be 3 or 4 more that went wading in. It was one of the craziest goalmouth scrambles I've ever seen. And we're in the Kenilworth end and we're like, the net's got to bulge at some point, but it didn't. But you just kind of wonder how. I've seen it back on television. Still haven't got a Scooby how it done go in the back of the net.
I think about 3 times I thought we'd scored. I thought, no, yeah.
It was exactly that. Someone put it in. It was, and again, you're like, oh, our luck's out here, isn't it? But again, they kept on going, and huge credit to Rob Edwards here. I said in the last podcast I was losing faith, and I was. And I'm not sitting here right now and saying that all faith is restored or anything like that. It's not the case. But to get a tune out of the team within 3 days of a real miserable debacle, let's be honest, with all the injury concerns that we've got, with players having to play out of position in the formation that he wants to play. To get that performance level so quickly, I mean, any talk that he's lost the dressing room, you can lose that, because they wouldn't have played like that in such a short space of time. So he's still got the dressing room. He deserves an awful lot of credit for that.
I think that and the recovery from the early setback, are the most impressive things about last night's performance, because they're depleted, and he's played Hashi in a back three, which obviously is in his position, and we don't necessarily want to see Chong and Victor Moses playing those wing back roles and being so deep, but it worked to a certain extent for those two on the night.
I don't think people were necessarily against them two playing those roles, because there aren't a great deal of other. What people couldn't understand going into the game is why they were in the sides that they were, where their strongest foot would have been the other side. I mean, when you watch the game, actually coming inside really worked, because the one thing that having Hashi and Tom Holmes as those outside centre-backs, Hashi is a natural attacker down the right-hand side. Holmes, not so much a natural attacker down the left-hand side, as you saw with his Bambi on ice effort when Victor Moses backheeled it to him. But he overlapped on a lot of occasions, and that's why coming inside to create an overload outside all of a sudden there's men in the box. Whereas on Saturday, when we were getting into full positions, Elijah was basically hogging the touchline, looking up, who do I cross this to? Just a bunch of Swansea players.
Yeah, I mean, it's the solution of sorts, isn't it, really? By hook or by crook, it's come up trumps, and the entire first half was just pure dominance from Luton. Attack as much as it can be. Like I say, it wasn't all perfect. There was a couple of misplaced passes and stuff, but the fact that they were actually passing it and keeping it was good. And there was a bit of variation as well. Sometimes it went back and they went long, but then they did try and play through because Clark and Krause were having such an influence in the middle of the park with the ball and without, that everything just seemed to be clicking, and that was really
what he did
wonderful.
Yeah.
We just looked at each other straight away when you saw what you did there. I have to say,
pun.
that was Jordan Clark's best game of the season by a long way.
The thing that impressed me most was the movement. There's like, whereas in previous games we're looking for the pass and there was no one making themselves available. This game, the pressing, the movement, it all almost seemed like there was more options in this game. Like, I mean, Moses was like taking players on, and how he never got a yellow card for that foul near the edge of the box.
We're going to come on to the referee
All right.
in a minute, because there's another basketball attempt in the second half.
But no, for me, it was just the movements.
Yeah.
There always seemed options, whereas before we haven't always had options, and it was just a delight to watch.
It was, and that again reminded you of the Premier League, because who was always in that position? Ross Barkley, who never stood still. He would always find the space to find. And now, of course, Jordan Clark isn't Ross Barkley, never will be, isn't going to be. But he thought about what was happening last season, and that it's just a simple move, isn't it? Just get away from the guy, take it off the defender, turn. If you've got time to turn, carry forward with it. If you haven't, you've got a wide player who you can get the ball into, and we can get up the pitch. Again, on Saturday, couldn't get the wide players involved. They were literally in a back five line. And what I liked about it, it rang true with what Rob said in the press conference. Again, on Saturday, there were some mixed signals and everything else. In the press conference, he said to you, the key word is we need to be brave here. And we were brave. And when Luton are brave, fans will respond. Whether we win, lose or draw, fans will respond. And we're generally pretty good when we're brave. You know, we're a good side when we live on the edge a little bit, because we've got the dynamic players that can do it. And it was really good to see, particularly Clicker, because, you know, he's taken some stick this season. You know, it's not unmerited. So he probably hasn't got as much credit for the good games that he's had. But he was really good last night.
It was, yeah, very, very good. Like I think, yeah, like you say, best performance of the season. There were some moments where he passed to nothing or passed to a.
He split Moses and Elijah for once beautifully, didn't he? And they returned the favour in the second half.
Yeah, but that's okay if everything else you're doing is good. If everything else is not good, then it gets highlighted. And I guess that's where he was at the beginning of the game of previously in the season. I think that's why it's really, for me, the most impressive thing, how they've managed to change that so much in 3 days with not necessarily, well, you know, a couple of square pegs in round holes. And I think that's really impressive. I asked him in the post-match, you know, how have you done that? And, you know, he gave a fairly detailed answer, which is quite good. I wrote a bit of it on the Lutonian.com, so you can go and check that out if you like. But, yeah, I think it does show you that. I mean, the accusation really has been that he hasn't got a plan B, and on Saturday he didn't have a plan A, but there was in this game. So, you know, I think a lot of it has to be, not a lot of it, sorry. It's a very complex mixture, this, and there's confidence it was part of it, and you know, I don't know, and I don't think we'll ever know how on Saturday they couldn't string 2 passes together when they're professional footballers on that sort of their bread and butter, but they couldn't, but they did on this one. But the confidence, the results, and everything, all the things that have gone wrong this season go into this melting pot, and that sometimes can happen, but to have bounced back in that way, like they did against Stoke, and play so commanding in the first half, and then when the second half, when Stoke found a bit more rhythm, but not necessarily the chances, there was some more resilience there, which was good. I mean, I can only remember really Kumas having a shot at Kaminsky. It was at him, fairly acrobatic save, but one for the cameras, but you'd expect him to save that. And there was one in the first half as well. It didn't really carve Luton open, which, even Swansea did, though they didn't score the goals. They managed to do that. So there was a lot to be positive about last night.
Yeah, there really was. Yeah, I have to say that save in the second half, that looked like a worldie from the Kenilworth end. Then you see it on television, like you say, it's straight at him when you'd expect him to save it. It's maybe it's ingrained in our heads that he's having to do so much work that everything he does, he's got no right to save. And when he does, it's still. I mean, Kumas was a tricky customer as well. Moses handled him pretty much well as he could, but you can see why he's on loan from Liverpool. I think he might even have played at Liverpool against us because they had God knows how many kids on the pitch.
They brought on a lot of players, didn't they? Yeah.
So many kids that could have been him, could have been. They're all sons of famous fathers as well, aren't they? That's bad. I remember watching Jason Kumas play against Luton, and now I'm watching his son play against us. Dear me, dear me. He shouldn't have lasted the 90 minutes though, should he? Mark referenced it. How he doesn't get a yellow card for rugby tackling Victor Moses on the edge of the box just on half time, and then of course, lo and behold, in the second half he rightly gets a yellow card. Should have been sent off. I mean, this referee, he had a strange night at the office. Thankfully, there were no big decisions for him to get wrong. But how he doesn't notice the handball in the second half. I mean, the geezer lays on it and then literally bats it between his legs so that Elijah can't get onto it. And I'm like, well, it's going to be a free kick at some point, no? No, it's not going to be a free kick. And then later on, we're clean through on goal, and he brings it back on the halfway line because some geezer's decided he's going to sit down and have 5 minutes off. I'm like, where on earth do these clowns come from? Wasn't good, the ref, but thankfully, nothing significant that hindered us. Not like the plenty of handballs that we've had already this season that not given.
And it's just the consistency. If you think of the Moses that didn't bring a yellow card, then straight at the beginning of the second half, when Chon was booked for something or other on the halfway line, and we just talk about it all the time. It's consistency. It's almost like they're refereeing two different games.
It was weird because, like I say, Stoke's players were dressed in referees' uniforms, and the referee was dressed in the goalkeeper's uniform. I was just confusing. This was.
Yeah, the Chong one was deserved, but how many times we've been calling for a little cynical foul on the halfway line just when they're trying to counter. But yeah, there was the handball one was ridiculous. It's been memed to hell for 24 hours, and it's basically rugby. He's basically a hooker there, and he's like flicking it back. It's great rucking. I'll tell you that much. They're all the terms I know about rugby, by the way.
He used two hands and flipped it through his legs. I mean, this wasn't like accidental. I don't know. And the time wasting as well. I mean, Jesus, he was going into overdrive, the goalkeeper, wasn't he?
Didn't we say this? When you needed something, and I was saying, a terrible referee or a player trying to nick 5 yards for a throw-in, anything that gets the crowd going. Thankfully, Luton actually got the crowd going by the fact that they were playing really well, but that stuff adds to it, adds to the spice of a Kenilworth Road under the lights game. So we got most of what we were wishing for, to be honest.
Yeah, we did, yeah. Thankfully, do you know what? I absolutely love it when someone time wastes and then going into injury time. How on earth there was only 3 minutes? I'm glad there was because we'd gone ahead. But he time wasted that in the first 5 minutes of the second half, let alone the remainder of it. I mean, he went down and he sat down at one point in the goalie, didn't he? And everyone knew what was coming because they'd all disappeared to the dugouts for a little team talk, 15 minutes before the end, which might have worked in our favour because if Rob was thinking about making subs, he'd have had a chance to talk to the players at that team talk, find out that they were all good to go and keep on going. And that was the thing that really impressed me last night. We kept on going. We tried. We were not going to win that game of football. It was there to be won. But on Saturday, it was like, we're playing for a 1-1 here, or that was the perception of it. Never did I think we were playing for a 1-1 last night.
No, and we've talked before about the last 3 games and the teams that have the most possession in the league, and we knew Stoke weren't going to be that type of team. But like I said earlier, the passion, the drive, the movement, the pressing, and as you said, it's from where they were with where their confidence was after Saturday. And I also feel that the away form puts even more pressure on the home form,
Yeah, big time.
which just makes the result even better. It was deserved, and the performance to match.
Yep, I quite agree. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? In the back of our minds, as the last 10 minutes is going on, we're like, "Oh, Blackburn are flying. We're getting sod all on Saturday. We really need 3 points here." We could all see that Stoke were there for the beating. We highlighted that they give up so many chances in the preview, and they did again yesterday. I mean, the skipper, he's got his head in his hands, hasn't he? 10 minutes from time or whatever. Absolutely brilliant Luton move. Where I complained that we were never playing any forward moves on Saturday, Moses into Kraus. Brilliant run from Kraus off the ball, who was my man of the match on the night. I'll question why this guy's given it to Moses in a little while. But Kraus makes a brilliant run to the byline. Doesn't panic. It's not a hopeful cross or anything like that. He actually picks out Morris, who can't miss, seemingly. And that's pretty much, I'm absolutely certain he didn't think he could miss. Gets a brilliant contact on it. His radar's just off, though. It's gone the wrong side of the post. And again, you're like, oh no, please don't let that be our chance.
Yeah, like you say, there's a few of those moments where you're thinking that it's not, while everything's going really positively, everything's not quite falling, and there could be a sting in the tail. But there wasn't in the end, but it was a good move. And I asked him about, or somebody asked him about, I don't want to take credit. There was a training ground move to get Kraus to the byline and cut it back. So it just looked like from the eye test when I was there, rather than looking at a replay, that he probably went with the wrong foot. Maybe should have swept it in with the other one. But I mean, it doesn't matter now, does it? We're sort of splitting hairs about things, but he did have a really good game, and it would have been good for him to get on the score sheet. Did you hear the fact about the two scorers?
It's the first time Luton have won when those two have scored in the same game, which I find incredible when you think that one scored 20 goals the last time we were in the Championship, and they both scored double figures last season. But yeah, the amount of 2-goal leads that we've surrendered in the games that they've scored in as well is kind of, I'm glad I didn't know it until after the game. Otherwise, I'd have been sat there panicking. Again, you're thinking, this ain't going to happen. A corner's come over. There's an absolute melee. It's got to Elijah. He's poked it at goal. Goalkeeper's well out of the goal by this point. It's in. Oh no, our friend Mr. Cannon, he's got himself on the line to boot the ball away. And you're like, ah!
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just like, I mean, I was like right behind the chance that just went by Carlton, and I still was waiting for the net to bulge.
I was celebrating. He scored, didn't he? At the time, the other side of the goal.
Yeah.
And everyone stands up. You can't see the ball. You're just assuming that Carlton's not missing. And then someone's like tapping me on the shoulder, like, "Can you sit down, please, mate?" It was game still going on. I was like, "We're on about game still going on."
Yeah, and like I said, that we're creating the chances, and we're finding the movement and the press and the pass. And you just thought, is it going to be one of those days? But I was quite comfortable, and we played so well, and we deserved the win. And whatever happened, if you'd have given me that performance before the game, I'd have taken it all day long.
I was quite happy with 1-1 at the time.
I bet you was,
very
yeah.
comfortable.
I bet you was.
Not just because that would have got me an extra 3 points, and somehow it's been stolen away from me. But that's by the by. But
stolen away, says the man who got a lucky 2-1 at the weekend.
Well, yeah, I mean,
1-1 at the weekend.
I would like to think that if it ended 1-1, people would have been largely happy. I know that the substitution issue is almost non-event now, but they didn't make it. He didn't make any subs, Rob Edwards, and that is the first time in 9 years that there's never been a sub in a Luton game. So maybe people would have pulled out a bit more if it was 1-1. Why didn't you bring someone on to try and change it? I'm glad that it isn't that now, and that we're talking about a victory, because everything else was so good. And yeah, I hadn't considered it, but like you said, when they had the little team talk thing, maybe you just checked everyone and see how they were. And his actual reasoning in the post-match podcast was that everybody was still having an effect on the game, so he didn't feel like he needed to change it in that way. So. But yeah, I think it was just it was a positive at 1-1, but to get the last minute, and there is just nothing better, is there, than a last minute goal,
especially against a team who've just been time wasting for the last however long as well. I have to say, when it happened, I just thought it hit Elijah and flew into the top corner. But it's actually a really, really good finish, isn't it? Johansson's punched the ball out to the edge of the box. Kraus, for once, we've had a shot from outside the box. He's kept it down, unlike Moses' one in the first half, which, if it hadn't hit the scoreboard, it would have been somewhere in Aylesbury, I think, by the time that landed. He's kept it down. It's right in. I mean,
He's fluffed it. That's somebody was trying to call that a pass. It was a shot. He's fluffed it.
oh, it's
and
definitely
it's
a
gone
shot. But
straight
I'm
to
not
Elijah.
sure he's fluffed it though, has he?
He has.
He's
fluffed
hit
it.
that fairly well, you know.
No, he's fluffed it. But I mean, I don't care.
Drives a hard
I
bargain,
don't-
this
I
boy.
don't care.
So gutted that this has gone in, you are,
Listen,
aren't you?
he's picked out an absolute peach from the byline and Carlton's missed it. This one, he's absolutely fluffed that. It was a shot and he's not got it. I don't care because it went to Elijah, but that's what we're talking.
I'm going to give him more credit than that. He's hit it well, but Elijah has just put an extra bit on it. And once he's got onto it, once he's in the top corner, the goalkeeper's already out of the goal anyway. Thankfully, Cannon's decided he can't be bothered this time and he's out of the equation as well. And it's in the top corner and the place just lifted, didn't it?
I felt like last season where it went in, I thought, we've done it. Then I looked for the flag. Then I looked around, thought, okay, I can celebrate now.
Well, yeah. I knew there wasn't. I knew there weren't no flag because old matey down on the left hand side, he was asleep for most of the game anyway. The boy, and then it's 3 minutes of injury time, which had that ball not have gone in, I'd have been screwing about because it should have been about 13 with all the time wasting. There was as I said, there was a pit stop halfway through that half that lasted at least that long anyway. Mads Anderson was thinking about Rob was thinking about bringing Mads Anderson on, but he didn't bring him on, and it was just like, you ain't scoring, it's fine. You know, a couple of long passes that, you know, players couldn't quite get on the end of that thankfully went out for throw-ins. But there was nothing doing in terms of ever conceding in those 3 minutes. And relief at the final whistle, but happiness as well.
Yeah, very strange feeling of late, isn't it? But yeah, the relief of one, but the feeling that it was well deserved as well. You know, a 90th minute winner, sometimes you snatch something, but they fully deserved everything there. Like I say, they comfortably could have won that game 4-1. You know, it didn't happen, and Luton like to make it a little bit hard for themselves. But
now, what really happened was the boys have looked at the preview and they've seen that I dropped 5 points behind you, and they thought, you know what, we're only going to win this 2-1.
oh no, I was that close, so close to absolutely screaming away from you in the score prediction league. And now
I have not celebrated a goal like that for a long time.
That was almost my first thought after like Mark checking the line and lifted his flag. I was like, oh, Kevin.
Banging his head against the press box table, he was. It was just beautiful. It was beautiful. It was good because if you go back to the last midweek game that we had, Sunderland at home, we didn't get what we deserved in that game. We deserved to win that game. And you look at Sunderland since, they've done nothing. And right now it feels like 3 points that got away. If we'd let another 2 points get away from us as well, you'd have kind of been like, why us? And we'd have still have been in trouble. Now, we're recording this whilst Wednesday's games are going ahead. So forgive me if we've dropped a couple of places by the time that you watch this. Right now, as we sit here, we're 14th in the table. Could easily have been in the bottom 3 had it all gone tits up last night and other results gone, you know, how many times do I say it's a crazy league? But it's just nice to have got our just desserts really for once, because there's been a few games where we've taken a pounding that we've deserved. So it's nice to actually get what we've deserved in a positive fashion.
And for me, when you talk about man of the match, it wasn't just one person that stood out. There were so many that stood out, and everyone left that pitch. They gave absolutely everything. The closing down, I've said it before, but yeah, it's just another one of those performances where you look on the back of what's happened and just how proud of the performance and the levels that they had to go to, not just physically, but mentally to recover and going behind. It's just like, just made it feel better the way the performance. If we'd have taken any win, no matter how it came, but the fact that we got a performance and a win made it all the more better.
If we'd written down what we wanted and tick boxes next to them, pretty much all of them got ticked last night. And, you know, if we use the ladder analogy that I used after the Norwich game, we were on the bottom rung of it after Norwich, weren't we? We fell off it and it came and flattened our face on Saturday. But we're back on the ladder again now. Might only be at the bottom rung. Maybe we were a couple of rungs up the ladder.
Are you sponsored by ladders?
I'm a simple geezer who tries to keep things simple. That's all it is. But we're back on the ladder.
We are. Am I allowed to mention ladders, or do you get a percentage?
You keep going. If someone wants to give me a percentage, let me know. I'll give you my bank details.
No, you're absolutely right, and it is still marginal gains almost, but the gain after Saturday was just to play like a football team and manage that, but more. So we've got to enjoy it while it happens, because it doesn't happen often, or hasn't happened often in the year 2024. Good riddance to that when it goes. But I don't think it solved all the problems. And like you said at the beginning, let's not talk about them now. We've got another podcast for Blackwell, and we can have a little dig around there. So it's not that, but it's just enjoy it while it happens. One time, when we started this podcast in League Two, don't you know? Tony Murray, Trust Chairman.
You're not going to give him any credit, are you?
He said to me, the only intelligible thing he's ever said to me was on the promotion day, or in the town centre from League Two. Might have been League One, I don't know. They all blur into one.
Got a bit blasé about them now, haven't we?
Blur into one. But he said to me, enjoy it, James, because these don't happen very often. But it felt like they did for a while, and it did go that way. But it rings true in all aspects, not just when you are successful in winning leagues or getting promotion, but when it's been like it has been this season. And, we thought we've cracked it, and then you go back a couple of steps, and then the weekend was just so dispiriting in every aspect, other than the fact that you actually got a point somehow. You've got to enjoy these moments when they happen. And that's the up and down, ebb and flow nature of being a football fan, isn't it? And I just urge anyone out there, if you're moaning and stuff, there's still stuff to correct and get it right, but try and enjoy this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do enjoy it. And I hope you went after Jimbo's pathetic sales pitch in the preview podcast, where we were going to get two crap teams playing a crap game of 0-0 football. Thankfully, we didn't get that.
I'll tell you what, even the pitch wasn't crap after that. It looked absolutely cut up at the weekend against Swansea, but the grounds people there have done an absolutely wonderful job there to get that in any way, shape or form like a playing surface.
Yeah, here. And we used it really, really well. And it was all good. I mean, it's just a few stats just to compare us from Saturday to here. I mean, XG of 2.25, that's a high number of chances that you create to get that sort of XG. Scored 2 of the goals. It suggests that we should have scored more, as we've said. 18 shots, 8 on target. Nothing like that on Saturday. I think it was 8 and 2, wasn't it? But in fact, their Swansea numbers on us on Saturday. As I said earlier in the podcast, 39 crosses, 30 touches in the opposition box. We haven't had anything like that for a long time either. That just shows that we were getting into their penalty box really, really easily. And, obviously both the goals come from set pieces, but we could have had open play goals as well. It wasn't that we were reliant on set pieces, but when you're up against a small team, I mean, Stoke, take that Berger chap, the geezer who likes to play basketball, take him out of it. As I said, there weren't a 6-footer to be seen anywhere. So you'd have expected us to dominate with set pieces when you consider it's one of our strengths anyway. So I have no problem with that. But yeah, just the numbers tell you it was a whole lot better, but the eye test did as well. And it's, as I say, it was really, really good to see. And Rob deserves an awful lot of credit. So much so. Let's hear from the man himself, because Jimbo caught up with the gaffer after the game, and here is what he had to say, reflecting on a decent night at the office.
It is great. I don't think there's a better feeling. But I also know how hard it is for them as well. And it's a horrible game at times, football. It's a good night for us tonight, and it does feel great, and it does. It changes the mood somehow. If we'd have scored in the 70th minute and then seen the game out 2-1, I don't think the feel around the place would have felt as good as it does now. And, you know, in that dressing room it was really lively after at the end. So there is something magical about a last minute winner. Yeah, really good feeling. We want to win games of football. We want everyone to be proud of their team. It's been hard, you know, especially after the weekend. Wow, it was tough. It was tough to take. So let's enjoy this right now. But we have to. There's no getting away from it. We've got to try and find a rhythm and some results away from home. You take those moments and you try and enjoy them. But I thought overall, you know, the performance was good. It was better than the weekend. Proud about how everyone reacted. Proud about how everyone reacted after going 1-0 down quite early on as well, and showed some real character to get back on the front foot and find a way to win the game. So, it was a good night for us in quite difficult circumstances. This last 9 games, we've had good nights and good days and good results here. I think the way it happened, obviously winning late, always adds to that euphoria. We've got to go and back it up now. It's no good. I'm not going to go talking and saying, this is a turning point, or this is, you know, it feels big, because, you know, another game comes around quickly and you get slapped in the face, you know. So we've got to make sure we just concentrate on doing our job, try and keep our heads down and work really, really hard for each other. And you can see they're doing that. We had more of a purpose to us. There was even if it didn't come off, you could see that they're trying to take someone on, or trying to make that overlap or whatever, and trying to affect them with forward runs. And we've got more numbers in the box, and quality at times of the crossing wasn't quite there, but we're trying to do those right things. And you know, we created some really good chances tonight. I think we should have probably scored more than 2, but look, it was enough for us in the end. But they certainly did. They were brave, and like I said, after going 1-0 down as well, didn't go under, showed good character. It's just some of the stuff that we've been speaking about that we've struggled with at times this year. So that was, it was really pleasing. Because if the reaction would have turned everyone into their shells and we'd have gone under, then the whole place would have been, you know, it would have been toxic, wouldn't it? It would have been a really difficult night for us. So the reaction from the players was brilliant, really good. And that in turn then transmitted to the supporters. And I thought the fans were right with the lads, which was great. We had to be quite brave tonight. We didn't have many defenders on the pitch. You know, we didn't, you know that. You see the makeup of the team. We went for it, probably about 3 defenders and 6 forwards. And, you know, Clicker's not, well, he's learning that midfield role more now, but he's still an attacking midfielder really as well. So, tried to be really brave tonight. It's hard. Obviously, the majority of our injuries at the moment are defenders and the last line. So we're always going to take a bit of a risk, and 1 or 2 playing slightly out of position, etc. But credits to them all. They kept going and found a way, which was really, really pleasing. There's a real good buzz in the changing room, which is nice after the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, it's nice. And we did take risks, and it's good to see. I mean, even if those risks don't come off, we're fine with it. It's when we see the turgid nonsense of Saturday and a couple of the home games before it, that people, particularly when it doesn't yield winning results as well, that people will quite rightly question whether they should go to the next game, like many people were ahead of last night. But we should say that's 18 points in the last 9 home games. Obviously, we lost the first 2, so 2 points a game since then. If we can continue on that, and if we can just start to sort this away form out, I mean, we're going to be fine. That's the first thing to say. Yeah. We were worried that we were sleepwalking into a relegation issue. Well, we're not. There is still enough home form to keep us out of that, regardless of what the away form does. But if we can just sort the away form out, Rob's already talking in press conferences now about looking at dynamic transfers in January and things like that. Who knows? Look, there's a lot of cracks that were still papered over, absolutely. But if we get 2 points, it's still 12 home games this season. So you get another 24 points from the home games alone. And the form would probably suggest we might improve on that anyway. Why not look up?
Well, even as bad as this first 20 games have been, with 22 points, I mean, if you go and repeat the same form, which I hope to God we don't, because we don't want to see that, but even if it was the same, then you'd you'd be pushing like 44 points. And I know that's probably not enough to stay up in some seasons, but that's just the bare minimum. If it's just a continuation of what we've been seeing, but if there is an uptick anywhere along the line, then you'd get over that threshold of where you'd be worried about promotion. And certainly for now, it looks like
relegation. I'm definitely not worried about promotion.
I'm in my head about those promotions I was talking about earlier. No, yeah, relegation. But yeah, at the moment, to be 14th, and hopefully, while we're recording this, the two teams that can go above Luton aren't doing that tonight. To be in 14th looks a lot more comfortable, doesn't it? And I think it was legitimate for us to say it looked like on Saturday we were in a relegation fight, because it did. There looked nothing about Luton. There was no confidence. Nothing went right, apart from the fact they managed to eke a point out of it. And obviously edged closer, or a point closer, wasn't it, to bottom three, on the fact that two teams down there had picked up victories, and it you put that all into the mix and it didn't really look good. But it's funny how things can turn in one game, one positive performance. It's a crazy league, like you say, and you're up there now thinking that you could kick on a bit more. Obviously, the main thing now, when you highlight those stats about home form, however bad some of the performances have been, the points have been coming, it's the away form, because 6 straight defeats. And we're talking probably the Norwich game where it's looked most promising. You still let 4 goals in. So that's the thing that's got to change. But for now, like I say, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, 3 out of the next 4 away from home as well. Of course, one of those against Swansea, which didn't bode too well at the weekend. So yeah, now's the time to change that away form. Absolutely. Is it wrong of me to say we're only 9 points off the playoffs?
Is the glass half full or half empty?
Well, absolutely. It was it wasn't half empty for me on Saturday. The thing had smashed. It wasn't a glass. There wasn't a glass left. But that is, I mean, again, we don't know how that lot down the road are getting on. But as of right now, that is the fact of the matter, that, okay, we're whatever we are, 5 points above the relegation zone, but we are only 9 points off the playoffs. I've said it many a time. This is a 2-result league. Of course, we've got to go to the informed team on Saturday and get that second result. But if we were to get that second result, that's 7 points from this week. Then you've got a home game against Derby, who aren't pulling up any trees, or they're not going to be in the top half of the table come the end of the season, you wouldn't think. And I've said it in the last 2 podcasts. Okay, Blackburn have ruined my statistic because they are now in the top 7. But at the time that I said it, we had 13 games without a team in the top 7. So we've got 1 in 13 games. There are points to be had right now if we could just sort this stuff out and get ourselves somewhere near to January, where we're led to believe Alfie will be back, which will make an absolute massive difference to us, where we're led to believe Rue Walters will be back. We don't think Reece Burke is too much beyond January either. Players will come back regardless of any signings or anything. And we've got Lamine Fanner to come in as well. All of a sudden, last night, just that light that was faded on the horizon, it's just coming back in a little bit stronger sight now, isn't it?
As a football fan, you just want hope.
Absolutely.
And
that's what we've spoken about, isn't it?
you just want hope, and you just want to see the effort and the commitment and the desire and the passion and all those things, which is like Luton's trademark. And I'm not saying that hasn't been there the whole season, but the intent was just, it was just a good night after what's happened in the previous game.
Yeah, well, it's been a tough month, really, hasn't it? Let's pick out some individuals, because I'm sure I'm not going to get criticised for praising individuals. Let's start with Tom Holmes, actually, because he's been here, there and everywhere across that defence in the last week. I actually think he seems to play his best stuff in that left-sided role. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that I would have him there ahead of Amari Bell, a fit Amari Bell. I probably wouldn't. But every time he's been there, he'll go and take the ball into midfield. If his attacker goes deep, he's more than happy to go with him and cover him. And then last night we had that nuance that he would get on the outside of Victor Moses to spread the play and allow us to get more men in the box. And his defending, he's good. He'll throw himself in front of things. He'll organise, he'll shout. I mean, I can hear him shouting from the Kenilworth end, and you don't really hear many Luton players shouting these days at the moment. There's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, well, he was skipper of Reading, wasn't he? And we have talked about in the past that you've just got to get a chance and take it. Nobody, Tom Lockyer was nowhere near the first team in the start of that season when he ended it as an absolute hero. And that's kind of how it can go. And he's got that sort of vibe about him. They're not the same player, obviously, but he did defend quite well yesterday. The overlaps were very, very nice. And all the tactical stuff was wonderful. But I think the burning question is, why does he keep pulling one short leg up?
Hopefully you get the chance to ask him.
This is what we all want to know.
Point. He's going to go into a post-match expecting to talk about a goal or a clean sheet or something, and he's going to pop over there. None of that. What's going on with your shorts?
These are the burning issues that people want to know about, isn't it? Tactics, meh. What is that about, putting that one leg up?
I don't know, but
is it the new slash in the back of your socks with holes in? Is that what it is? I don't know. Tom, phone in or send a stealth envelope in and tell us what's going
to
on.
be fair, it doesn't look too bad. That thing they do with the socks looks like a mouse has gone and ravaged through the things. They look absolutely embarrassing. Just buy bigger socks for them, for God's sake. But yeah, I mean, look, we now know we've got no Mengi for the foreseeable. There's a shirt there to be had, to be worn, and Holmes looks like he's more than comfortable wearing it.
Oh, and I mean, at the beginning of the season, you're looking at if we ever had everyone fit in the defence, you just think when would Tom get his chance? But I actually think he complements McGuinness really well. Those two next to each other look really solid, and people say, "Oh, where's the pace in the defence?" But Tom Holmes is a no nonsense defender. He'll get stuck in. He's not afraid of a tackle, and he's just reliable. From what I've seen of him, he's been a 7 or 8 out of 10 every game. I've not seen him have a bad game. Even the sending off at Coventry, it was just his passion and desire to win that ball, and he was out on his feet. So it's a real one of our finds of the season, and what's been disappointing so far that he looks like he's going to take that position, and it's up to someone else to take it from him.
A reliable defender, yes, please.
I think it's about the mix sometimes, isn't it? But I think it's too early to call that off that one performance. But sometimes it's just about the partnerships and the mix of certain players in, defence, midfield, and attack, and how they click together. And the signs were there that could be a partnership that works. Obviously, it's not a partnership, is it? It's a threesome. But
I'm not going down that route. You've been down there before, and I'm not leading you in that direction again.
But that, these are things that we've observed over years and years of football, that these things can happen, and we just hope that they do on this occasion. Yeah,
we do. Obviously, the first centre back who's back will take the Hashioka role. So Holmes, you think, is going to be in the side for a while. I mean, who knows what happens in January? Maybe they'll sign another one. Who knows? But whilst he's in there, he looks good, particularly on that left-hand side. Going further left, I mean, you gave Victor Moses your man of the match last night. He had a perfectly good game. Don't get me wrong, a really, really good game. Certainly his best game in a Luton shirt. And I guess it's one of those, isn't it? He's been in the side, then for whatever reason he's not been in the side, and now he's had 2 or 3. I know he came on at Norwich at half time, but he's had 2.5 games of the last 3. Then he's naturally going to improve if he keeps on playing more regularly. Because you look at Ross Barkley, his career was stop start, and he stalled. But when we gave him regular football, he shone and scores the winning goal in the Champions League last night.
Yeah, I as a joint effort, by the way, that man of the match, it wasn't just me. It was Mike from the Luton News as well. And I'll pin it on him if you don't like it, but if you like it, it was me.
I'm not saying I don't like it. He just wasn't mine.
Well, I just thought in the first half you could have given it to Clark or Krause or Moses, Elijah, Carlton. Loads of them were playing really fantastically well. The second half, Stoke came into it more, and Luton didn't have as much of the ball, although they still created the best chances. But Moses was still an outball and a useful attacking point down the flank. But the thing that I was impressed with the most, and why I think it was his best performance in a Hatter shirt, and I hadn't really seen much evidence of this so far, which was a bit frustrating, was that he was taking players on, and before he'd get to them, and then he'd cut back, and I'm thinking, oh, you're a Champions League winner. You could beat that guy, but he wasn't, and this time he was, and maybe it's a confidence thing. I just thought he had a very useful game for the whole time, and we've given it to Kraus loads, so I thought, well, go on, give it to Victor.
I have to say I agreed with you.
2-1.
Hold on, where's this brown envelope that he's given you?
So, and like you said, it was his best game in a Luton shirt, but it's his attacking intent, taking players on, because I can imagine, not that I've played any level, once you take a player on, then the next time is going to give you a yard because he's expecting you to try and go past you. So the attacking intent would have pushed them back on that side, and he just gave us options that were just creating space and creating opportunities. And definitely his best game. And I think that's the first time I'd sort of really seen him attack a defender on that side.
And if we're talking up the amount of times Luton got down the flanks and put crosses in, which is the main weapon, then he was a massive part of that, wasn't he?
He was, yep. But for all of that, Tom Crush should have had 2 assists on the night. And I mean, some of his passes were excellent. He was always finding space. He was challenging midfielders. He was getting the crowd going in the second half as well. And it was just another really good performance, and actually a 90-minute performance, because if there is one, not criticism because that's the wrong word, but one thing that you really wanted to see from him it would be that he did it from start to finish for 90 minutes, whereas usually it gets to sort of 70, 75 and you can see that he's suffering with cramp, or, kind of fades a little bit and ends up getting substituted. Not last night. And he went for the duration, and that brilliant shot in the 90th minute that found its way to Eli was just reward.
Absolute fluffer, that one. I don't care. It was a great assist.
Assist.
It's on the stat sheet. There's no pictures in the scorecard.
Yeah, no, he fluffed it, mate. No, he had a good game. There were loads of them that had really good games. As a sort of collective unit, there wasn't like the one guy that was pulling everyone through and you go, definitely that guy. So I think you could make a case for 3 or 4 of them. And no bother with you giving it to Kraus on this one. But, this is democracy, baby. So Victor Moses.
Democracy's got Donald Trump into America, so let's leave that out of it. A really, really positive night. That's the most important thing. There's hope restored, isn't there? Hopefully there's more hope restored after the next game, unlike the last time we had a little bit of hope restored to us. And we'll cover that when we come on to the Blackburn preview. But it's been so nice to reflect on a really positive night of football. And I think you're both right. I think we would have still been sat here reflecting positively had it finished 1-1 with a tinge of regret or disappointment. But thankfully, we haven't even got that. So, happy days. And of course, with it finishing 2-1, it just means that I've gained 3 points on this fella in the score prediction. I wasn't the only one to pick 2-1. Well done to Lee Donlan, to Des Jude, and to Gary McMordy, who all went 2-1 Luton. There were loads of you, surprisingly, actually, lots of you went for a Luton win in this game. Maybe we sold it so well in the preview that that you had no choice but to go for a Luton win. And well done to all of you. And all of those points have been put into the leaderboard, which will appear on screen. And the top 5 of you are right there. So well done to everyone who got that right. We have not invited Mark onto the podcast just to talk about football, though. We have invited him on because if you may remember last season, we had Mark on with us and he was cycling here, there and everywhere. And if Luton played, he cycled there. And, you've documented it in a book, my man. Tell the people out there exactly what's happened.
So, my first book was Mad Hatter, which was the championship season 21-22. And the last 2 years, I've sort of documented my challenges cycling here, there, and everywhere, as you've said, but also the promotion season and just my experiences of the promotion season and the Premier League season. The books came from someone saying, I bet you just get the train and cycle around the corner.
I mean, if I didn't know you as well as I did, I might have had that school of thought, but I obviously knew that wasn't the case. That was what I would do, may I just say.
But no, it's been 18 months in the writing, and I've been very fortunate that I've had the foreword written by Rob Edwards and Tom Lockyer, which is a huge privilege and an honour. And yeah, I just want to share my experiences of my two challenges, the 116 grounds and the Premier League, but also share my experiences with my own experiences of mental health. So I'm not afraid to admit I have my struggles, and I'll always try and raise awareness. And for that reason, so the book will be available, I'm hoping, next Friday. So
In time for Derby.
in time for Derby. So if anyone wants a copy, it's directly through me at the moment, $16.99. So either direct message me or come see me at the games. But what I'm doing is I'm also donating some money from each book sold to two brilliant mental health charities. So Samaritans for Luton, South Beds and Harpenden is one of the oldest charities in the community, and they do unbelievable work with mental health and with suicide prevention. There is a stat that every 90 minutes, so the length of a football game, someone dies of suicide, and also Mind. They do so much in the community. They have recovery lounges where people, if they're feeling down and they're feeling low and they need someone to talk to, they also do men's, women's groups, young people's groups. So with my own personal struggles, it's just like, for me, it's like I'm lucky in the sense I've got people that care, and the people I can pick the phone up to, and the people I can speak to. But I think for me, the whole thing is that no one should suffer on their own, whether you get support from friends or colleagues or family, or even if it's someone professional. I'll never make an apology for raising awareness for mental health, because I know of my own personal struggles, but I know of struggles that everyone else has done. And if by selling a few books I can help these charities, then it will be worth it. So yeah, I'll be donating money from everyone that buys a book. I'll be making a donation to Mind and to the Samaritans. So if anyone does need someone to speak to, so Samaritans 116 123 from any phone, you get to speak to someone. And for Mind, if you go onto the website, the various different groups they do, there's basically someone to help and someone to listen to. And I think it's quite poignant at this time of the year, because obviously Christmas, it's a season of being with family, and it's a joyous time for a lot of people, but also it's a difficult time for some. So yeah, that's basically why I'm sort of supporting the mental health charities, but also I just want to share my experience in my book, and hopefully some people have a laugh at the dramas that I've been through on a bike on the last 2 years. But the football club have just been incredible to support me, and some of the experiences that I've had, have been very lucky enough to sort of have some unbelievable experiences with the football club. And it's like, for me, I'm just a fan watching the team, and all the players live out our dreams as they do for all of us, and just to get to speak to them. And it's just been an incredible journey to, primarily I do the challenges to sort of support the charities. I mean, the last 3 years I've raised nearly £38,000. So
Amazing effort.
it's just, for me, it's about supporting the charities that I'm passionate in, but also following the club that is a massive part of my life. And hopefully, if you want to buy the book, come see me.
Yeah, I've seen Mark after a lot of these journeys, and I've seen some of the stories firsthand. And if they're documented as well as they were when I've seen him at the away games, it will be an absolute superb read. That's for sure. Just really want to really reaffirm that message that Mark's just said. Christmas is approaching, and we know that there's a lot of people out there who struggle at this time of year. Please don't suffer in silence. There are people who can help you out there. And if you are struggling, don't be afraid to admit it. It's fine. It's okay not to be okay. We highlighted this a couple of weeks ago when we spoke about this with regards to Rob, didn't we? When he shared it with us. And please don't suffer in silence. Please do get help. We will put the details of the Samaritans and Mind in the show notes wherever you've got this podcast. So if you do need to contact someone, the details will be there. Please use them. That's what those guys are there for. They're professionally trained. They're brilliant people, and they're there to help if you need it. And also, if you can help Mark by buying a copy of his book, half of the proceeds is going to go to those charities. His first book was excellent. Second book will be absolutely no different whatsoever. If you've got a Luton fan in your life and you're not sure what to buy them, well, get a copy of Mark's book, because you won't be disappointed. And it's always great to have you on the podcast, mate. But it's even more great to promote your causes, because they're champion causes and you're a champion bloke. So we're more than happy to have you on the podcast, and wish you all the best with the book. I can't wait to read it myself.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll put Mark's details into the show notes as well. So if you want to contact him about getting that book, because, as we speak, it's not out yet, but it will be soon.
It will, yeah. Hopefully it's a double header on that night. Mark's book is out for the Derby game and Luton beat Derby. That will be an absolute perfect Friday night, won't it? So yeah, best of luck with the book, mate.
Thank you.
And congratulations for everything you've done on that journey, because 38 grand is a serious effort.
Yeah, it's proper that. Well done, mate.
And thank you for having me on.
Anytime, particularly if it means we win the game of football that you're coming on for. So you come on every single week for if that is the case. Thank you to everyone who has watched any of the podcasts of the last few weeks. As we said right at the start, some of them have been difficult to listen to. We appreciate that, but we really appreciate all of your comments. There've been so many people came up to me last night and thanked me for being honest and open and having conversations that weren't particularly easy for us to have, but we pride ourselves on being straight, being balanced, and saying it how we see it.
Yep, that's what we're here for, really, isn't it? If it helps, hopefully it does. If it doesn't,
not sure it helps us.
I don't get much sleep on these 3 game weeks, but I wouldn't be back here doing it if I didn't love it.
No, indeed. And everyone who came up to me after the game last night was looking forward to a positive podcast, and hopefully that's exactly what we've delivered. So thanks again for watching, listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. Please do keep subscribing if you can, because these podcasts are coming thick and fast this week. And again, with Christmas approaching, they're going to keep on coming thick and fast. So if you don't want to miss any of them, hit that subscribe button and you'll get a notification every single time each one of them lands, wherever it is that you get your podcast. That is it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks very much to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, particularly these midweek ones. Really appreciate the fact that we can use this studio. To Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be a preview of a really easy away game. No, sorry, of course, not an easy away game, but an away game at Blackburn nevertheless. From myself, from James, and from Mark, get in there, Hatters.
Come on, you Hatters.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people.